So today, we're going to spend some time talking to my favorite producer, the great Michael Gardner, who produced Sunset Provisions and Majors and Minors, and was a large contributor to both in terms of what he brought from a production standpoint, but also what he brought from a musicality standpoint. Before we get started talking about Majors and Minors, record number 2, I wanted to welcome Mike here.
Thank you, Eric. It's always good to be with you.
So nice to see you. And we'll talk a little bit about when we first met one another, and then you've had such a varied background in music. I think it'd be fun for listeners to hear some of your interesting stories. But when coming up with the idea of doing the first record, our very good friend Tom Yoder suggested you be my producer, as you produced some of Tom's acoustic records back in the day. And I remember the first time you and I met, we went out and had a little dinner and got to know one another, and it was love at first sight. But really, I shared with you some of the ideas that I had, and you were right on top of it. And then when we were in the studio, you made everything, as you always used to say, mo better. Mike, you've been around music your whole life, and when did you get started in music?
I started playing when I was 12, and I don't know, I just took to it like water.
Right.
And when I was 15, I started playing professionally. That was with guys a lot older than me,
Right.
And or at least I was getting paid, and it was my only job. That's the. It takes me back to days when my brother's band would rehearse in my parents' carport.
Okay.
And we lived way out in the boonies. But all the kids would ride their bikes over to our house, and then that's when I understood the girls really like guitar players.
And this is in North Carolina, right?
Yes, yes.
Because I know you're from North Carolina.
Tiny little town in North Carolina.
And then ultimately you played professionally and toured. So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about some experiences that you've had. But what were some of the bands that you were in, and what type of music, and where did you tour?
Right. When I first started, my brother was a drummer in a soul band.
Oh.
And man, we had this black singer. Oh my God, he was just gorgeous. All the women loved him, and his name was Timmy Love.
Oh well, that's a perfect name.
Yeah. But I grew up playing. Started out. I played guitar, but their bass player quit. So my brother and I had the idea that I bought a guitar and we turned it into a bass. Oh. It was a short scale bass, but it worked for a while until I could actually get a real bass. And so we grew up playing Sam and Dave, Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, that kind of stuff. When we were, when I was a senior in high school, for 2 years in a row we had won the local battle of the bands, which was put on by the JCs. And then you would go, if you won your local, you went to the state battle of bands, which was held at Dorton Arena in Raleigh. And we came in third, but they only had real prizes for the first 2. But we won a contract with a booking agent in Charlotte called Hit Attractions. And, after that summer was over, I just couldn't wait to get out of that little town. And so both my brothers were living in Charlotte, so that's where I went there, and was in a music store one day, and some cats were in there and heard me, playing a guitar like this unplugged. And they said, "Wow, man, you want to be in a band?" Oh. And so I was a band called Grand Central, and we played. For guys that were fresh out of high school, we played some pretty hard stuff to play. Like we played Chicago, Blood, Sweat and Tears, stuff like that. Like because we had a good horn section.
Gotcha.
And then and so I mainly played rock, funk rock, for most of my career. And
great way to develop your rhythm chops, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, man. When you're around guys that know how to turn that beat upside down.
Right.
And then I was in a band called Wide Open, which was we played some Chicoria and some Return to Forever and some stuff like that.
Which, for those that don't know, is more jazz.
Yeah, it's fusion jazz.
Fusion jazz. Right?
And so I'm sure we didn't play it perfectly, but we were pushing our boundaries. We were trying to be the very best players that we could be, and we pushed each other, and it made us all better. But after that, I moved to Los Angeles, and got a publishing deal out there, which saved my ass, because it was money coming in that I wasn't making while I was playing. But
were you playing in a band out there, or
no
writing music?
I was writing. I was
music.
writing PKM's first songs.
Okay, now PKM then is the band that you ultimately got in.
That's right. That was
the P and the K and the M. M stands for Mike. I know that.
Yeah, right. So it was Pee Wee Watson and Kenny Soul, and when I got my group of songs together, they were still touring with. They were the opening act for AC/DC on the Back in Black tour, and so when they played at Long Beach, they came out to where I was living out in Ventura County, and we hung out. And I played them the songs that I had, and we said, "Look, man, we're going to do this." And so I went back to North Carolina, got my demos done with the guys that I knew, And being in LA, I could have done it there, but it just wouldn't have been nearly the same. It's hard to, you know how it is. I mean, go in, meet somebody fresh the first day.
Right. You want to play with people that you know.
That get you.
And that understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And I might comment, Kenny Soul is the drummer that played on Majors and Minors, the record, the second record of On These Airwaves. So while you're in LA, did you have any experiences? Did you meet any people?
Yes, I did. Yeah. My ex-wife was married to a famous sax player named Tom Scott. Mm-hmm. And he had a band called Tom Scott and the LA Express. Yeah, I've heard of that. They were Joni Mitchell's backing group. Mm-hmm. Robin Ford played in that band.
Yeah, he's a Robin Ford again, just a tremendous guitar player. Again, for those that are unaware. But yeah.
Right. And I was hanging out at Tom's house one day, and Chevy Chase comes in. Oh. So, after a couple of illegal acts, we started telling jokes and stuff. He was hilarious, and so was Tom. We had a great time. Oh. So that was one of my, brushes with greatness.
Was it George Harrison that you saw and stayed with when you were out in LA?
Well, we spent an evening with them.
So how did you meet George Harrison and what
Tom Scott,
the great Beatle.
Tom Scott was the produced a number of records and made records with George. Uh-huh. And he had a studio over in the Mad Monk mansion that he owned. Okay. And Christine and George's wife, Olivia, became good friends.
Now, Christine
is my ex-wife,
right? Okay.
Who was a Playboy centerfold, and
Chuck, make sure we get a picture of that for our
I should have brought the book with me. Yeah. But we were invited to come to their house because Christine had been in the hospital for a while, and they used to visit her in the hospital. Okay. So we went out there, and it was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. The only thing I try not to do was be a goober and go, man, I think you're amazing, man. The only thing I said to him about that was I thanked him for being exposed to him, which made me want to play guitar worse than anything.
Did you guys actually break out any guitar while you were there?
He had a room cedar room that had all kinds of guitars in. I would say probably 15 or 20. And he took me in and let me pick up anything I wanted and play it. He had a bunch of Tony Zamitis, his guitars.
Okay.
And it was just an amazing evening.
To spend any time with that, someone of that stature is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, well, let's pick up the story, and then you come back to the East Coast. You've got these songs. You've made a demo, and then PKM goes out on tour.
Right.
At that point.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the dates we did was with Ozzy Osbourne.
I want to hear this story.
And
yes.
It was at the Fayetteville, Cumberland County Arena, I think is what it was called. And it was just a three-piece band. We traveled light, and we had a trailer back behind our Suburban. That we, as Pee-wee used to say, hell, we only got 3 clumps of shit here. Talking about our gear. So there wasn't all that much that we didn't need a big truck, but we pulled in to the dock area, and there's like 15, 18 wheelers. Lined up, and they all got sound and lights and band equipment and everything else.
Doing the load in for Ozzy, getting everything set up for their show.
So we pull our little trailer in there, and one of Ozzy's, I guess he's probably the oldest crew guy that Ozzy had, comes out and looks at the trailer, and on the back of the trailer has got Show Dogs, a bumper sticker, and he looks at it and he goes, "What the F is that? Ozzy's goat?" Are we gonna have a sacrifice on stage tonight? The guy was just
Ozzy's
hilarious.
goat.
Ozzy's goat.
Well, how'd the show turn out, by the way?
Actually, we got over real good.
Yeah. Good.
And that's when Brad Gillis was playing with Ozzy.
All right.
And it was nice to be able to be on stage and see what his rig was at the time. He was playing Mesa Boogies then.
Okay. Which again, for the unindoctrinated, is
a brand of
amplifiers that are famous and very nice sounding.
Right. Yeah.
So PKM runs for how many years, and then what?
81 to around 87, 88, somewhere in there. We made an album.
Yeah.
Locally and regionally, it was successful.
I want to interrupt. I know you told me that you spent some time in London as well. I don't know if that was after PKM.
That was actually prior to.
It was prior. And while you were in London, do you have any experiences there that jump out?
Yeah. When I first moved there, I was going to be working with my brother-in-law. He was married to my ex-wife's sister, and they both were Vogue models. His wife was an English Vogue model, and she just knew everybody. And they bought a new flat, and it wasn't ready for me to move in with them. So she said, "Well, look, I've got you a place with some good close friends of mine that you can stay with them." Well, it turns out it's Chris Jagger, Mick Jagger's brother. And but he was really a very humble, and he was an actor. And kind of, I guess, had just told his brother, "Look, man, I'm just going to do this on my own. I'm not going to tell people that I'm your brother so I can get my foot in the door." Right. So I always admired him for that point of view. Punk was going on then, and I had the hair down to here, and so I was the exact opposite of what they were looking for in a guitar player. Yeah. Right. But we did write some pretty good songs. But what a great experience. The one other thing about that trip was the sax player that was in our band was a guy named Michael Wilding, who is Elizabeth Taylor's son. So met some interesting people through him as well. Nice. I just felt like I got dropped into this upper echelon of English society, sort of, but it wasn't.
In a moment, I want to ask you about Peak AM and what came after that. So we'll take a brief little break, and we'll
Sure.
come back and do that.
Sounds good. Good questions, Eric.